Recording, and I'll share my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'll just again now go to back to our notes and then what is expected in the dev class. So that we'll talk about here. So when the developer class started, so what was our intention is, hey, you go to this developer guide. This note is already there in the Google Sheet. If you guys don't have an access, please ask me. We will again share it to you. So the purpose of this recap is to understand what development things is. If something is missed, we can address that where we went wrong. Okay, so take up this developer guide, which has the fundamental things of all, be it from the class. How do we define a test class? How do we write a methods? What is a collection? What are the best keywords we have? And inheritance, interfaces, all the have options in this. Whatnot, all the integration stuff. So whatever you see is the basic things all we have here. This is a good place to just look into it. Maybe if you just go through at least 500 pages, you would be good enough to understand what the maximum developer things we have. At least it has 2,500, 3,000 pages. So you guys touch up to 500, it will be like a good enough, to understand what we are. So then thereafter your interest will automatically, put into it. And then you'll go on. So that is what the idea is. So try to cover at least 500 pages. So the thing is in the 500 pages, whatever you have learned would be there for sure. Like if I talk about data types like an integer, so integer, entire integer. So whatever you talk here as an data types here, it's individually everyone is a class here because so integer I call, so they have their own methods. So when I want to convert some values to integer, or when I want to do a format of some values to integer, so all this converting or format, they all have some independent methods, and that's the reason Salesforce came up something like, okay, every data type let's have a class, and while they're defining it, so like they have a different structure. So that way, if you see everything here is a class, but of course we are using string str integer I. So the way of definition is fine. Declaring a variable is also fine. A variable of type what? It is of type some class. So we define the class variables, right? Like that you assume. So when you try to assign a value to it, in each individual, they do a perform of what they're intended to do it. For example, if I am an integer, I would have all the numbers and other stuff related to me. If I have string, all the strings and chars associated to me. So the purpose serves the same, but individually they also have a couple of methods which can make your life easy. So that way we can understand. So what are these few things here is it all comes under the primitive data types. So even in the Java or any other programming you think, so primitive data types will comes in integer, string, decimal, double, all this comes in primitive data types. What are the non-primitive data types? If you see collections, so list set maps comes under the non-primitive data types. So yeah, this is other way they call as non-primitive. They are non-primitive. Otherwise, in the data structure, something called structure, stack, queue. There's a couple of things are there, but which not involved in our programming. So ideally, at least certain mapper will comes under non-primitive data types. Where in this non-primitive, what we call this list set collection will hold the primitives. For example, list of string, list of decimal, list of numbers or whatever the boolean, list of time. So like that will have it. So this is collection is called as non-primitive. Anyway, so why we're talking about here is because a data types is the key fundamental of writing any program. You may write an Apex class without data types. You can't do any other stuff. It just you can't associate any values with this. It's so important to have data types in any programming. So then we come with access modifiers. What does the access modifier specifies? It says that how do I have an access to? Should I be in access with public? That means in this entire org, I can be anyone can call me, or I write a private method, a private class, or a private method where only that particular class can call me. So that is the thing where we have. And generally, to private classes, we write in test classes so that then we can't call another test class to say another one class to another test class. That's not possible. We shouldn't call, so that's the reason. If you see any test class, they will be private. So when I say public, you think that okay, this particular class can be called anywhere in the org. That means let's say you are in a dev org, you're trying to write a class, and then you're trying to write another class. If it is a public accessible class, you can call that class into another class. Why? Because that you written as a helper method or reusable method. So I want to utilize that method. So, but basically the class should be public and your method should be public. Only then you can access them. If the method is private, still you can't access them. That's the thing because class you may have it, but the private method it is. So make sure whichever the method that you wanted to make it as a accessible as a outside of your the particular class, make sure that they are public so that any other class can be calling them. So this is the first point. And then the global when you talk about okay now only we're talking about so far within the R. If you want to access the outside the R, let's say someone from the outside the system, so they wanted to fetch some details from us. So in that case, we exposing the method to get an access to that area. But that particular class itself should be a global, and the method which is inside that, because that method is particularly exposed, and even they also should be global. So global is the terms when we are using or it has been exposed outside, so the other peoples are using it. So that term the global is very important. Now, which are the methods will have a global if you think an integration class. Um, I'm just giving an example here, each and individual example test class. Sorry. Okay, class. Um, I, any reusable. I put this way. Any reusable or generic class. Where people by this are using it. Any reusable or generic class will use public. Um, generally, test class must be or any class don't want to any class that want to access by this, they become private. And so this is used when outside the Salesforce want to access um, Salesforce. So we just call them as like example. I'm saying it's an integration classes which you try to expose. Anything you try to expose when they wanted to access from outside, they are all should have a global classes. So any questions here quickly? Because it's a recap, quick recap. So we'll just go on.
No.
Okay, perfect. Also, let's show me anyone is reading lobby. No. Okay. So then again, types of sharing we have with sharing, without sharing, and inherit sharing I had. So which sharing runs on the user mode. It runs on the user mode. Why we say user mode? The user who logged in based on his profile, what level he has an access, we run on the user mode. That is what we call as user mode. So all your developer console which runs on the user mode. Why? Because you have logged in, you are opening a developer console, you're doing a testing or you're checking there's something. So that particular things all runs on the user mode. If I try to query to an account, okay, if you have an access to account, then you're able to query the account. Why? Because If you go to, though we give a developer access, that doesn't mean you have to see entire data. Whatever has been access given to a profile, only that level you can do it without sharing. So they run in system mode. If you write a code in system mode, so irrespective of the guy is having very bad access, still he will be able to fetch some results and display something because the class is running in the system mode. So inherit sharing, what it mean by it is inheriting the properties of whatever the parent class. Let's say parent class extends, sorry, child class extends parent class. Ideally, in inheritance, it gets comes in. So why we use it? I want to inherit the properties of all the parent class. So now parent class running in the with sharing mode. So your inherited, if you put inherited for the child class, it will be good enough. Public inherited child class name extends parent class. If you give that way, so whatever the access level that you got for the parent, same thing is inherited to the child. So we need not worry about whether should I give without sharing or with sharing. We need not to worry about. So make sure in inherited sharing you use it child class. Use it in child class. Why? Because I don't know what is my parent is using. So let me follow the same. If it's system sharing, okay, let me go with the system sharing. If it's without sharing, okay, let me go without sharing. So all your child classes, if it is inherited, so then use inherited sharing. Is any questions? So if you say quickly confirm me, then we can quickly jump on to the next, so that it will be a quick crash of
No
remembering stuff.
questions.
Fine, good. Thank you. Now, what we have types of classes. So what are the types of classes we say is what are the types of apex class which is calling about? So which we say inner class. You write a class, you write a class, and then you write a class inside a class. So whatever they call as inner class, abstract class, or what do you call wrapper class. These are the couple of names we have. I don't know whether I've written downside when we're dealing with the apex class, operator class. This is how to call a class. Okay, let's come there. Hmm. Types of inner class, anonymous class, apex class. Now let's define each and everything. So we call inner class. So this class would be, so inner class means what? This class would be written inside a class. So usually they are called as another names. People they call them as wrapper class. Hmm. Okay. So either they call as inner class or wrapper class. What is the name they have? Um, child class. They have different names of versions. It's okay, fine. So and ideally, if you say a wrapper class or inner class, so all that it refers to the same. Now, what is anonymous class? So we don't have a class definition for this. Run. They can call other class methods and execute. So the best example, guys, I think it's a developer console. Developer console is an anonymous class. In the developer console, so you say execute anonymous, right? There we go and say execute anonymous. So that particular thing is it just not have any class definition there. You're just going and writing and putting a system debug, right? Execute anonymous. That is what we say execute anonymous window because you don't have any class name. Just but still you can call the class and still you can call Apex something to print there, whatnot. You can query something. All you can do that. execute anonymous window is the a place where we call as an anonymous class, because they themselves, they don't have any class. That particular window doesn't have any class, but still you are able to call methods and try to put debug and check what is happening there. A, a generic class which has class variables, constructors, methods to process the logic. Okay. So when I say a just an Apex class, hey, it's a class, but I know that. So we have a variables, constructors, methods to process the logic. So we all tend to write a Apex class, and the definitions I given out below. So how to write an Apex class? Everything: access modifiers, sharing keywords, class name. So this is syntax. What we say, access modifiers are public. Let's say, for example, you see here. So sharing keyword could be with sharing, without sharing, inner sharing, whatever you call. And then the class keyword, class name you given here. So for the access specifiers, if it is a class variable, something on, so public string username, it's just the name I have declared here. You can assign a value associated to this instantiate by is equal to some value you can give it. Then the public void display is something the method we have, which is a non-static method, you say, and this is a static method, we say. The crazy thing is you can't call this method inside this, or you can call this method inside this. Why? Because a non-static method can be called in another non-static methods only. Static method can be called in other static methods only. We will swap them so they won't work. So they say that hey, non-static method cannot be called in a static method. So that's crazy. Is any questions here?
Can you explain the syntax again for writing a class? Like how exactly we write and
So always you write, look at this access modifiers. Always you write a public, private, whatever you define them, access specifiers. It's very important stuff. Then you follow by writing a keyword. You can define a keyword here, or you don't define a keyword. If you don't define anything here, what they become is they by default they are runs on system mode. It assumes this is without sharing. Public is a keyword, which is says access modifiers. Class is a keyword. And then you give a class name. After the public, we may specify some sharing keywords here. Just getting. I may give something as a keyword here, I may not give it. If you want to specify that with sharing, then you are running on user mode. I told you user mode is mean what? If that particular class is associated to some sales profile, what a sales profile can maximum do? When at that level, that particular class can execute. So that we say is with sharing. So when I say without sharing, it runs in system mode. How a system administrator can view all the records, you can play with whatever you want. So that level access, where if you don't specify keyword, or if you specify without keyword, without sharing, all the systems are called a system. It's run on system mode. And again,
so if we are dealing with just public class name,
mm,
then it is like a system administrator, like they can
yeah,
view everything.
yeah,
So
that's
if
it.
they use something sharing keyboard, then it will be useful. It will be accessible with some specified users only, right? Is that
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
You don't specify, you forgot to specify, okay, fine, they are running a system on. Now it's your burden that they wanted to only be able by accessible by their respective preferred setting, then put with sharing. With means that itself says something. It's defined. Okay, with sharing. Someone we are there. Okay.
Oh,
Now such Apex classes when you write, all this you have to give access to some profiles. Anyway,
so those can be customized, right? Like those public classes can be customized.
every class which you write is all custom classes.
Yeah. I mean, are there any like Salesforce terminologies? Like,
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, what is it? Sales system? Just
I mean, like, are there any like methods or variables where they use only Salesforce terminologies?
no, these are very generic programs where all Java stuff we see. Same thing here. Nothing so different. And no, that level change we have, like say sales specifically, they all deal with this. For a keyword, yes, we have. This is we can only see in Salesforce.
Okay.
Why they specify is they are all talking about the profiles they wanted to implement here. Whether you're a parent class, whether you're a child class, what level access you want to pass through. So, okay, this class is running now by default. Should we say that this is running on a system administrator mode or the user who logged in to that guy's level mode? So, for that, they have a sharing keyword. Otherwise, if you see here, everything is like a normal class.
Okay. But usually, like in the live project or something, they hardly use a sharing keyword, right?
No, no, they use it sharing keywords. They use it.
Okay. Okay.
So, it's a very important thing to use it because we
Mm.
don't know that what type of profiles that we're dealing with. It's all case to case different. So if a company has decided to have a very finite results who can be accessible to that particular logic, so deliberately they will
Mm.
assign what type of keyword they should follow with.
So then, what is the point of getting the share validation? What they do, some kind of administration work, right? Like giving access to some profiles or, you know,
So look at if I do a with sharing, if I do a with sharing
mm,
public class with sharing,
mm,
so that time so we don't say that it is system mode, which means it's a user mode. Okay?
okay.
It is that time user mode because you specified with sharing. Now you written this class doesn't mean this will suffice everything.
Mm,
You need to go, let's say I'm going to sales profile. There, enable Apex class access. Something like this, we have a tab. So you need to go to the tab and add this sample class. So from a system, and I mean, for anyone who is like an admin, they will try to configure, associate this sample class to this sales profile. You know, right? How to go to
okay.
sales profile.
Eh,
So go to
Yeah.
setup
Yeah.
and go to setup type of profile and you open the profile and there you're searching for sales profile. Okay, now this new class which you written, I wanted to assign that particular class to the sales profile. How do you go?
Mm,
There in the after you open a profile, they have something called as enable Apex class, enable Visual Source page. So those options
mm,
we have no. So there you just
mm,
click on that button and then it will ask you. There are a bunch of classes which is there in the left hand side will be. So you need to
mm.
choose which is the class that you recently written, and then pull that access to him. I mean associate assign that particular access to this particular profile. So
Okay.
that way, a new class which just came in, it is accessible to this him. Now, if you say that is with sharing, anyway, it's running on this guys on this particular profile mode. There could be the same way you're giving access where doesn't have any access specifiers. So that time I told it is running on system mode. Still the same class you
Mm,
can assign to them, but that time
mm,
it doesn't runs on the sales profile mode. It runs
mm,
on the sample class will be running on the system mode, system administrator mode. Though this
mm,
in this case sales profile case, he can't access account, contact, all whatever he cannot access. But since it is running on a system mode, this class you assign that to this guy, though he's a sales guy, but still he can be. Why in the programmatic he can still be accessible? Why? Because system administrator can access whatever, whatnot. He will access to be everything. So some if you do this way, it's somewhere the leakage of a data. Getting so he is a sales guy. He doesn't have an at an object level. He doesn't have an access to account contact. But the class which you associate to assign to him, which is doing all the stuff which is not available to him, and that is a data leak, right?
okay.
Isn't it data leak? So he is having lower access, and you're giving a class which is not intended it. So that's the
Yeah.
reason we say was we go always with sharing. So now the class which I'm assigning to you, whichever the profile to what level the access you have in object level, the same your class also would run on it. So that way we are safe. Unless and until the system mode, if you're writing it, where we don't care about it, which profile you are, it's a universal access class. So then you write in system mode. Some functionality
Okay.
you implement, which is it tend to be universally, everyone should access. So then you can go with without sharing our system mode, whatever that you want. If it is intentionally doing some logic to represent on each profile when they log in, they will do this only this related stuff. So every profile you have definitions of what they want to do it. If you do it, then write a with sharing class. That will be still helpful to you.
So these access modifiers are um, f- have to be there every time we create a class,
Of course,
like all these
now
three.
now anything which you don't define an access modifiers here, access modifier specifies whatever you call. So if you don't specify, they by default they are private.
Okay.
If you don't specify this keyword, by default they are not system mode. So like that it is. So if you don't specify anything here, it's by default they are private.
Okay.
So why we say you must mention is, if you mention is some other class they can access this method, then some of them they can access this class. If you don't specify, no one can access this. For example, like a test class, we say that it's a private class, private methods will be going on. Now, no one can
Mm.
access a particular test class. Why? I have written a logic. For that logic, I will write a test class. Why I will go access some other test class to this? So it's not possible. So we don't want to do that also. So
Okay.
that's why we write the test classes to be a different what do you say? Always it should be a private.
Uh, yeah, I understood that, but my question was like, can you go up? Yeah, there are like three lines with public, right? Public with sharing, that is fine. Public string name, string username,
Mm.
public void display name. So all those those two lines below the public with sharing
Mm-hmm.
also necessary, like public string username and public void display
So
name.
if you don't specify
Those.
what it happens is,
Mm,
don't specify this. So they treat it to be private. So when you call in
mm,
this class outside, so let's say calling from another class, calling from another class. I'll write a snippet here. So I will say, so this class public some ABC. So here also you write some method. So probably now you wanted to access this particular method called static check display name. I want to call this class name dot this particular method name. I can call them directly. I can call them. Why? I can directly call them. This won't return any errors. This snippet won't return any errors. Why? Because it's as good. Public class ABC public okay, sample class dot method name. Why it can directly call and then accessible is because class is public and the method is public and it's a static method. Any static methods you can call directly their class name dot method name. Look at this is totally different class. ABC is a different class. I am trying to call this a sample class and I'm just directly getting into this method without doing anything.
okay.
But what it will say is, hey boss, you are trying to call a static method, but your actual method is not a static. Static context cannot be accessible non-static context, they will say. So what to do is we come and change this to static. Okay.
Okay.
This is a static method. Wherever you're calling, they also should be static. Only then rule process. Okay, static must. Okay, this guy can be easily called now. Now assume this doesn't have an error. So it's an error-free code. Now what he's saying is, hey now I wanted to access this guy who doesn't have any access specifier here. Now look at that.
Mm,
Class name. Okay, let's say this is another class. Another method. So public void, let's say, and ABC. Okay, this is XYZ. Let's put this XYZ, this method, and then have this. So now I wanted to access this particular method, which I didn't specify any access modifiers. I told you
Hmm.
any access specifier you don't specify by default they would be no, private.
Private. Yeah.
So now let's say the class name. Okay, this guy is not a static method. Then how do I access? So class name is equal to class name. Why? Because we have to instantiate an object if you don't have any static methods. This is the way they do it. So now a dot what is that? Display name. So tell me guys, will this method will execute? Syntactically we are good. Will this method will execute or it will throw an error?
Throws an error, I guess,
So why it should throw
because
error?
it's a private.
Hmm. Throws an error where can access. So it can access the what is this? Basically say it says the very what we're discussing. I mean you're displaying here. We can't even read. So you can understand them. Okay, they don't have an access. You can easily make out they don't have an access. So you just come. Okay, this guy is a private, so that doesn't even have access. So any questions, guys?
No.
So now let's write another snippet to quickly check.
One more question, Raj.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm not sure like what void is doing there. What exactly void does?
So what is basically if you don't want to return, hey, listen, I'm talking to you, you're talking to me back. What it indicates?
Hmm. Mm. So confirmation like it is a kind of void. Is that a void?
No, what I'm trying to say is I'm talking to you, you're replying back. What type of thing it is?
Uh,
I'm talking to you. Let's say if I'm talking
mm,
over the phone, I say hello. Wouldn't you reply back hello?
yeah.
So that is what
Yes.
those are written methods. I talk to you in the
Okay.
same way, you talk to me in the same way. I
Mm,
expect to talk with you a string format, you should return me a string format only. Please do not give something.
okay. Mm,
Then I'll throw error. I asked you A, you should give me A. Why you are giving me B? Then I'll throw error you to
mm,
you. So likewise, those are which I'm expecting return from you. That is one thing we
mm,
call return methods. Okay, now what is void
okay.
method? I talk to you, you don't even care. I mean, you're not supposed to do something send back to me. That means only I'm giving command to you.
Mm.
Go get that.
So yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just giving command to you. I'm not expecting anything from you. Go do this and get
Mm,
lost. So something like that. It is like we say it. That is what I've talked is like a layman things what I've talked. So anonymous. I mean this is all asynchronous. When a method is set to be a void, majority of the asynchronous Apex classes all would be using void. Who are the asynchronous methods? So generally they are like say batch class, future class, scheduler class. All these guys would be using void methods. Even
those
even
are like asynchronous methods.
yes, they are. They all will use asynchronous methods. All these Apex classes, like say batch class, a
Mm.
future method classes, future class, or a scheduler class, all they would be using asynchronous methods because they don't want it.
So
I'll tell you, they all
mm,
run on their own independent time. Whenever the resource is free, they will run on. Meaning, you are trying to say that you are firing them to execute on their own time and then get lost of the time. We are not expecting something from there. They return to give it. So it's just like there we are executing them to run on their own time. We're not expecting anything written from them. So that's the reason all those anonymous, sorry, asynchronous classes are all using the void methods.
okay. So like what's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous?
Now I talked
Like
to you, right? So when I say something you would return, when I
mm,
ask for
that
you,
is synchronous.
that is synchronous. When
Okay.
when I give a task to you, I don't return expect
Mm,
anything from you. So you just execute and then run and then move on. So we don't expect
okay.
anything to you. So you think a scenario where okay, I need to return something to that guy. Okay, let's put a return. What type of return? So what is expecting? So let's say he's expecting a string. Okay, let me give a string. He's expecting list of records. Okay, let me give a list of records. So this ideal way of understanding is all return methods because you are tend
Okay.
to return something. Expectation is you to return something. In other case, he said that I will execute. So don't return anything. So don't return anything is always void.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so any method you see, you will see a few things called as keywords here. Static keywords and non-static keywords. That's the big difference you see. When I say static keywords, you may execute a class name dot method name directly in any class.
Hmm.
This is just you call class name dot method name. All the Aura classes, all the LWC, whichever the component they're calling. So whenever they call it, they wanted to have static methods only because they can't waste instantiating a resource and from the resource they can pick it up. So all they wanted is directly class name dot method name fire them. So it will be easy for them
Okay.
to pass the value and get the value whatever they either the void or non anything it's different, but they want
Hmm.
to have a static keyword. So I
Okay.
explained here class name dot method name. But look at this difference here. So it's just because of non-static you have been done this.
Yeah.
Always make sure.
Again, it's a big process.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
do,
more
yeah.
lines.
So it's not about more line because when it's static, you need not to waste or instantiate a memory and do with the stuff.
Hmm.
So that's the ideal of this. So here you are trying to create a memory and then you calling a display of that particular method. So that
Okay.
we need not to spend something. That's reason. Okay, you started recording it. I think we're good here. So which flash to access this also we're good.
So,
Now
so Antiraj, one question. Can you go to that same? You have declared class name, right? The one
yeah,
which before Mohan was asking.
this one.
Yeah. So here you gave sample class A equal to new sample class.
Yeah,
That means like A is inheriting from for it's like a parent and child class.
need not to be. So you can call the class name directly here and then you can use it. So when you say public class extends, I think we didn't take inheritance so far. So extends sample class if I do.
So that sample class is the name of the class. Is that
Yeah, name of the class here I written sample class.
then what is then XYZ or ABC? Even that is the name of the class, right?
No, these are methods.
Okay, 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 okay.
So there's a class, there are a couple of methods inside this. So why we say extends here? When you say extends,
No, no,
you are
no. I'm asking about ABC. ABC should be a class name, right? It's a method.
where it
The
is.
one public class ABC.
Yeah, this is a class name. Sorry.
Yeah.
See, class ABC. Okay, let's write AB class, whatever.
Okay.
So
Then
this is the,
extends sample class means it can also be called by with the name sample class.
it extends the features of whatever the sample class is having, so they can extend it.
Oh,
So if I
oh.
want to have extend keyword, this class I treat them as a let's say parent class or a what is it? Of course, they're parent class or so they are. Of course, this is not in name. We have parent class, child class. So then it will fall under the inheritance concept. So then this guy need to have separately called as abstract keyword. A keyword should be present there if I'm making them as a parent class. So we are
So,
still
so
so,
just I want to know what this state, how this statement will work. In the method XYZ, you gave sample class A equal to new sample class. So,
see this is you're trying to call class because you define them as a public. So the basic public meaning it is you can access anywhere. Need not to be
okay, yes,
inherited.
yes,
Need
yeah,
not to
I
be
know,
inherited.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
can call
I
them.
got that,
The
yeah,
meaning of that you can call them.
okay. So we are calling that class in this method.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since I said as an a public as a keyword within you can access that particular class in the entire org. Entire org means what? Let's say you're working in developer environment. In a developer environment, you're writing 50 classes. So 60 class, 100 class, whatever the apex class, 100 class you can have. I can I can get this access. I mean this I can get this classes Apex class can be called in anywhere of the under class, or if anywhere.
So you just mentioned it. It's because of the static method, right? Like
If it is even though non-static also, still you can access it. We don't care about the static or non-static. You can still access it. But where we are accessing it is important. Let's say you are accessing in a static method, then I have to define this way. If you are having a
yeah.
non-static method, then you have to define this way. But still you can access this unless and until that method is public and that
Okay.
particular class is public. You can access anywhere, anything, whatever you want. But basically, you mean to say that R is static, R is non-static. Think about that, and then flatly, if that is a method, okay, if they are public, you can call them. It's need not to be inherited something. Inherited means what? You are expecting or adhering the rules of what this parent is doing. The same child wanted to do that. Do that. That doesn't mean that.
So yeah, one question. So the above one is this one class. Let's make that a class as a parent, and the one ABC method is there, right? Can we make this class as a child and do the inheritance from the parent class?
Yeah, we can do it. We didn't come to the inheritance. I
Mm.
want to do inheritance when I wanted to do a Apex classes and extends to few features. I want to do that time.
Okay. So we haven't touched the topic yet.
We didn't do inheritance yet.
Okay, okay. Yeah, sure. Then
So
that's fine.
what I'm trying to do
We
is
can.
at a basic level, are you guys very good with the Apex class, how to define, how to access? So that was our key motive today.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So any other questions you have here? So Raj or Kumar, do you have any questions here? It could be very silly questions. Please let's talk this out and then close this because such to the deep of basic things we can't discuss anytime. So we can ask this question also next time. So if any such vague or weird questions, please throw to us. We can answer them.
No, I don't have any.
Yeah, I'm good, Raj.
Okay, fine. Then what I'll do is I'll write snippets. Give me the output. Okay. So in that, so what type of narrative will throw, whether it is accessible or not, is it a good practice or not? So I'll write up to 10 to 15 snippets. I'll write it off, and then I'll send you guys. So now individually, you have to send me back as a result for each Apex class. If I try to call or write a method, will it pass or not? So that way you will understand the snippets well, and then you will find out the errors in that particular program. It will be good, right? To identify the snippet whether it will pass or not. Yes, of course, this practice can help you out in PD2 exams or maybe cracking the PD1 exams. Sometimes if they have logical questions, if they ask you. Okay, no problem. So this Apex class we are good. Now, how do you call these methods and classes? So one way is directly, I already said here, if the class method is defined a static keyword, so you can this way. Non-static, you have to instantiate a variable and you have to do it. So this already I've mentioned in the notes. Okay, non-static call, how do you do it? Okay, fine. Class, static class, how do you do it? What are the results we got it? Now, if I say return something, I was talking about return, right? Public void, so far you are dealing it. Public integer, if you do, then I'm expecting a return of integer. You're expecting, you're writing a data type as integer here. Please return that same data type as integer here. You're returning a list. Please return the list. We expect always the data type variable which is set to be the same. You should return the same. Don't return the data type here. Do not return the data type here. We're not expecting that. This particular class method is of type integer. Please return the value of an integer. So the value you should instantiate integer of something here and then do calculate something and return the same variable. So we are returning a value here, not the data type of that particular thing. You guys getting? So this cal age will have a value, integer value they will have it. The meaning of this, if I send a birth here, it'll tell me how old I am. So that is the meaning of it. How old I am is a number. Likewise, here also public list string xyz. So you cannot have methods like this. Sorry, you can make a method like this because it's a list string. It's a return type. You are returning a return of what? ABC. ABC is what? List of string. So anything you define here as a return type, same thing a variable you will declare inside like this ABC and then you return them. So ideally this would be null it will return because you're not processing anything like this. At least you are calculating something a birth here. But you're not doing anything here. It will return. The moment I call this method, it'll send me results, I know, but this will be empty list. But syntactically they are correct. So any question on this methods?
Just one question, Raj.
Okay.
So in the calculate age example, you are doing something, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
are declaring college as an integer, then you are calculating something, then you are returning.
Yeah.
But what are we doing here in the list string?
That's what I'm saying. We're not doing anything here.
Okay.
If you say it is a program, it will work or not. If you say it will work, but then they're written null. Anyway, we don't know that it's written null. Will this code will pass? That's a question. If you say this will pass, but what it is returning? The moment you call xyz, what it returns null, null list. I'm showing the difference of you. This can do an actual way. This is an actual method. This is actual. It works. You send a birth year, it will give you the age back to you. How many years you're old. Likewise, I was saying in the very beginning. So list string is what? It is type of collections. You are returning a collections here. So for only integer string like that, we were returning that time. So we were trying to bring them as a collection also. List of strings. You can return the strings also as I was discussing here. If you try to add something, it will return a value properly. Let's say, so with just defining this way, you can't add any to element to this. You should have is equal to new operator. You should use it, and then if you define this, yes, it is accessible. Then you should open and close. Now you are defining ABC, right? ABC dot add. Since it's of type string, sorry, the spelling mistake here. So list of string, then what are you expecting? So Apple. What does it mean? So now you are defined a list. To the defined list, you are adding this value and returning this ABC list. Okay. So now when you call ABC, sorry, okay, when you call XYZ method, okay, what is the class name? Class name, okay, let's say this is under the sample class thing. So class name dot method name when you call, it will return the Apple Mango to you. Why? Because they are returning strings. Is getting class name. Okay, this is not static methods. Okay, instantiate the sample class A is equal to sample A dot XYZ you call, you get the result of the strings. Here's any questions?
I mean,
Go ahead.
we are not using the XYZ in the calculation, right?
No, this is totally different method and this is totally different method.
Okay, but we define something as XYZ, but we are not using it anywhere.
True, that is true. See, the previous to this class was not having a return methods. All these were static methods, void methods basically. And I wanted to add something later stage while I was doing a class. I want to add return methods. So that return methods I've written here. Getting ideally this all should be under the same class. What do you see? Set. Okay, this method returns something here. Fine. No problem. So these two methods should be ideally getting inside this. The method itself cannot be outside separately. Always it should be inside a class. Okay, now this class can be having a void methods or non-void methods. Anything could be, no? Now someone if called class name, like say they are instantiating like a normal primitive. Class name Sam is equal to new sample class Sam dot XYZ. When they call, at that time they return this list value. Now we got it. Actually, this is non-static call, right? To execute this XYZ, what I do is look at this. So this method would return me a list of records. So now what should I do? I need to have a list of string. So next list is equal to. I know this sam.xyz, the method, the moment I call, I would get a string of records. String means what? It will be displayed like this. In this list, it will be like this. So this value would come and sit in X list because you're calling the class name dot method name. Sorry, class instance dot method name. So the list would come and sit here. So you can process again with the whatever the list which you got. You must have a see left and right hand side. It is coming as a list of string. Your left hand side also should accommodate the same. So you can't put something like this string. So this is singleton. Only one value it can store. Whereas your return result is having list of string. So that's the reason your LHS and RHS should be same. You are expecting a list of string. So the same way you are returning of the value who is accepting also list of string. Then only the LHS equal to RHS matches. The moment you call it this method is returning list of string. You can't have integer here. Correct? So do I'm answering your question, Kumar? So if anything else you can ask me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
So for the class, this method is defined nowhere it is used. Unless you call it, it will be used. Does any other has any questions? Okay, let's quickly jump on. So then I was writing the Apex classes, which will do a single transaction. Let's say create account, update account, edit account, delete account. Why I want to get into a specific to account? Account is an object in Salesforce or a table in database using. So they store a couple of records. So then if I want to deal with them to insert a new record or delete a record, update a record or read the record. So to all this we say, CRUD, C-R-U-D, create, read, update, delete. So if you want to do programmatically how to create a record, update a record, delete a record, from UI just you go to that particular account and then click on edit and you're modifying it. Click on new button, you're clicking open a window and there you're entering it and you're saving it. Of course, from a UI it is made Salesforce made such an easy way. Create, read, update, delete all of these objectives were so simple. Now, if you write a program to create a record, how really it works, how a background logic it works, if you think. So this is how it is. Account itself is a class which which has been written in there. So let's write an Apex class account management with single record, where you try to pass three params. Let's say act name, act number, and then email. All of the type string, that type. Look at this. This is the basic fundamental which we understand how a method should be defined, static or non-static. All that would apply in the real case also. Look at this public string. String is a data type which I'm trying to return. See, anytime you specify a data type here, right? So that means for sure you're returning the same data type here, backside. Return string. If you specify data type here, you must have a return keyword or else it will fail. So I'm going to send you 15 snippets or 15 to 20 snippets. You have to crack them, saying that what went wrong. It's an individual statement. to individual of you guys. I will send an email. So everyone has to reply back to me individually. So it'll be a class name, method name, how to call, what to call. So syntax error, all that I have put. You guys need to give an explanation in what is working and what not working. You can copy them to your developer console, try what not you want, do it, and give me the right address what you want to do. It's just like open book kind of context. So you can execute and then check what went wrong, why it is doing this. That you have to explain me tomorrow. So for sure, after this class, I'll figure out and then fire the 15 questions. So that is basically to understand the snippets, how well we are good with. I think we have done a couple of tests here, writing a static, non-static, passing a variable, assigning a value, inserting a record, returning the same expected time, all that we've done. So I think we should be good enough. Okay, just as coming to the explanations, create account is a method which I'm expecting to return a string type post creating a record. So what I'm expecting, okay, if you create an account, I say successfully created. If you're not creating, I will say success. I mean, failed to create for some XYZ reason. Yeah, of course, to say that congratulations or successfully insert, for me, a string is enough to say a display message. So that's the reason I'm keeping string here. So my motive is to say successfully inserted or not. So for that, string is just good enough to me. Okay, now create account is a method. That's a custom method which we written, and we are passing few values. So all these values are the inputs which has been given at the moment we call the class name dot method name or class names using the method name of create account. We need to pass this all three params. Likewise in UI, if you passing the values inside the, look at this, directly jump to account. So let's assume in a UI, you're trying to pass. So here you have UI where you're typing the account name, rating, all the stuff. So likewise, all these values, whichever you fill, it'll call to a method what values you have added to this. So the input would go around a name, account number, and email. Some email thing. So now I'm considering this such a big inputs to take in, where my logic is to just take in three input as your, I mean three fields as your input. So let's say the method is taking three inputs as your method. So there you have UI to enter the value, but here we're going to do a manual process of replicating how a create account would work. So they are actually having the a UI associated to the controller. They have it already in the place, but we're just trying to replicate how these guys are working. Let's work with the same way, but we'll have our own method to deal with them. Why we are doing this? Because to in a future state to customize to an extent, we want all this stuff. Now let's say account number I passed, account okay, name, number, email passed. Now what is this? I need to have an account memory. So I say account object which you're dealing with, instantiate a variable and say new account. So this requires a memory when you're trying to do an insert of a record. Absolutely without a new operator, we can't have a record to be inserted. Without a memory, we can't place something here. So either for where is it CRUD? In the CRUD, RUD. So we don't require anything called as new operator to be instantiated. But at least for a create, we may need to have this new operator to be instantiated. Why? Because we are trying to do new here. So read, update, delete is already something the operation has been created a record way back. We just reading them or update or deleting them. Create is something that newly we're doing it. So that's the reason new operator will require. Now, so act name is equal to whatever the instantiated variable we have. No? To that we've given. Why? Because so with the help of this variable only we can access all the fields. Either at a standard field, custom field, whatever. So we can access this field and we are associating the input which we came in, we are associating to that particular fields. And finally, we are inserting the variable what we have here, instantiated. So we call them as the DML activity, which we say we calling specifically DML statements. Insert is a DML statement. And post if this is successful, I'm trying to ask them to return something. Return not only the success, along with if a record has been inserted, they will have ID generated there. So account record dot ID. I've given this. So expected is to have a string. So this is returning a string to me. Even I've concatenated the string plus the record ID. So that at the last it will say message plus the record ID. All this will go in a string format. So now whoever calling the class name instantiated variable dot this method name and pass all these three value. So they will get a return saying that either a success message or a failure message. So why we have a try catch here is something here you pass, which is a mandatory field called name. If you don't pass this, it'll say null pointer exception and it's a required field. So that time it'll go out of from the try and go to the catch and say this guy didn't have put a defined or required field value. And of course, I have to return them a message failed to create an account error why. So that particular required field didn't give. So all this will be displayed. So where you want to do a try catch, wherever you're doing a DML activity, where if you miss something here, it will throw an exception, it will terminate the program and get outside. So in order to run smoothly, we keep this try catch. In the try, you tried this, something went wrong, it printed in the catch, accepted. But that doesn't broke the system. It at least saved the system, but it will print the error what it is. If you don't specify anything, an exception will be thrown widely, and that is the bad practice. You need not to show any time a exception to the customers. It's very bad practice. Let's say you're trying to click on new and click on next, and then something entered here, and you click on save. Instead of this required field, something you do, if it gives some big vague error, that is not a good practice to deal with. Why? Because you can't say that in this particular line, 23 line, it is an error or something like that. Try to make sure you handle it properly, try catch, and what is error you want intentionally to show it, show that. By this way, we are able to get into an account singleton, and then we are able to create a record and return it. Any questions, guys, here? You can ask me whatever the questions which can be. Either it is silly or it's fine, please. Go ahead. Again, we may not get a chance to recap this. So we good here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the next method which I want to is read. How do you read an account? So this time I'm sending you number and site so that based on these two things you filter me. Hey, because I just give an account number, what if there's a duplicate record? See, the whole context of this particular logic is I wanted to do a single record activity. Single record. So I'm not expecting something I pass you, you give me a list of records. So that's the reason I'm sending the finite number of account number and a site. You filter both of these, I need to get an actual record, which would be only one record. So I put limit one because I'm expecting only one record. If you don't put this, if there are too many values of this, there's a problem of returning one or more. Then the RH, what is this? Okay, this is RHS, which is returning list of record. The same way your LHS also should be. Now in this what do you call it? RHS is expecting you to have only one result. Okay, so your LHS can have only singleton object instantiated here. If this guy is returning list of records and you're having only singleton here, then it will return as an error. List cannot be assigned to a single record was. It will say that. So be sure about it. So what you are returning it and what you are accepting it, both the guys data type should same, and even if their collection is there, collection also should be same. For a map, you cannot assign to list. For a set, you cannot expect a map. So no, it's all handshake should be in a very proper way, same to same only. Okay, so now I selected name account from site where account number is equal to, I used a bind variable where you're passing the value which was to the account number. Here is going to map and check first filter, and you can have and is something that it can says that okay, this is pass. Okay, come here and here, and the site account site which you're giving here, and again I'm checking here. So why we say and is your account number also should match and your site also should match. then only you're getting it. If I say R, ORR, either record number matches or the site matches, get that record. In this case, I want both should pass. Both should pass means the account number, it should be present, as well as the site also, they should be present in that record. Only such final records we're getting it. So why we do this many filters is to forget the actual account. So if I get a duplicate account of someone else, and then we shouldn't modify their record or read someone else's record. We give as many filters to finally work on the logic of which record we are intended to match and which intended to work on with. So if you mistakenly get some other record here, then we are collapsing the system. So make sure the filters are proper. That is one. So let me quickly type. So then again, get account using safe operator. There is a new operators which is came in system like this. What happens if this site is null? There could be value of this site which we expecting. The site could be null. I open an account. Let's say I open this account. I may not say that always the site should be present. Site means a website or site the site. This is the account site is the site. So here site is null. So you are querying this account record and expecting to print a site here, but the site is null. So it shouldn't throw me a null error saying that hey, you are expecting for a number and then I put here and you are trying to pull the site value. Basically, individually, I'm getting only site record. I queried this record, I know, and I wanted to give us limit one. Why? Because only one record I wanted to print based on the account number, and I'm expecting site value of them. Where you see a site value is blank here. So if you use this operator, we are safe. Why? Even though it is null, it won't throw an exception called as null pointer exception. Otherwise, it will throw null pointer exception. See this way it says returns query exception. List has no rows for the assignment to this object. If this says list has no rows, so we should be careful with if without the safe operator, it will throw a null pointer exception. So that simple example I've added here. See, let's say I passed an account number here. I got Google. Why? Because Google was a site that time defined there. Now update the account. So pass the account number and a site with both the combination of filters. You get it. Okay, got the right account. Now you are changing from the Google to Yahoo. See, look at the site. They are changing it, and you're updating that record. All the same. The queried record dot site is equal to Yahoo, and update the Yahoo. So that way I'm just getting what was the previous site value queried. It should be Yahoo Google. And after, see, look at this an example. So previous site which you Googled was Google, and then later on you changed to Yahoo, and the later result is the final result is Yahoo been printed here because you updated the record. Otherwise, all simple. We just pass the same query, same filter. Only you're trying to modify the value. So this is how you try to modify a record with the examples I've added here. Now delete an account. So delete an account, simple ID is enough to delete a record because we don't want the entire bunch of record to be queried and then do the stuff. Account number site, why we do is we are querying the finite records, the desired one, and only them deleting them. So that makes more sense. Look at this. Select ID from account where you have filters and you got the record, and you simply deleting that record. So if the record is already deleted and you're trying to delete them, it says the resource is not available. You're getting? Otherwise, you see here, the record deleted here and post deleted, which record deleted, that also you defined here. So once after deleted, you cannot access their account record, their name, account record, that number you cannot access because it's vanished. So nothing I change here. Simply I used void. When to use void? I don't want to return anything. Boss use simply delete. That's enough more than to me. When I say update, I want to return as an account. Yes, which account you have modified to return that account. See, returning of account type A. Unless before we were dealing with return type as string, and this time used account. So you can have objects, S objects, primitive types, collections, whatever you want. You can have here. That's a return type. Whatever you define, please return the same. See. Now we got into collections. What collections are doing? Why you want to get into collections? Collections are dealing with either list set map. I told you already, list can have a duplicate records can present in. Banana 2 times it is there. Apple, mango. This is the same way we are added the list in the back. So list is one good advantage is whatever you insert, they will be in a sequence order. So it's a 0, 1, 2, 3. So like that, it starts from 0 index and then goes on. So you can access by index also. You can print them in a sequence order also. But what the problem with this list is they can hold duplicates. Okay. So to print them, we have a couple of methods. You can again see this developer guide. So I've specified here. So if you just give a list, it'll give you the array of records, whatever is inserted here. If you simply say size, how many records hold inside that will says. Say empty, you are checking that whether the list is empty or not. If it's not empty, you just proceed to do some actions. This is what we're having it. So look at this. You can add this way using add method, or you can do this way. But this is something like a manual process we have, where we can't enter the single quotes A, B, C. This is all again defined the same way. A, B, E, the same way. So using add operators is pretty easy to add them. So to do this way, maybe manual step of having commas and then other stuff will be there. So next is we've set. Set is again same thing for collections, but this guy will not hold any duplicate values, and they are not guaranteed on the sequence number, and we can't guarantee that via through index we can access them. So the only thing advantage we have is they don't have duplicate values. Otherwise, so they're opposite to list. Actually, they're opposite to list. If you say this guy sequence, I'm not sequence. If this guy says I can hold duplicate, he says no, I cannot hold duplicate. You can access with index. He says I cannot access with the index. Look at the same thing. Is an opposite guy from for the list who called as set. But this guy is also use the same pattern. How we are reading a account or a string or whatever the integer. Look at this. str.add. Same time we use a method to add the items to this or elements to this. Apple, mango. Look at this. So set takes an exact match. I want to have a banana. If you see these n is caps and n is caps, only for them they treat as duplicates. For mango and this mango, they don't treat as duplicates. But there's not exact match. Case sensitivities. And they're different. Here is different. So that way, any small change here, it is assumed as a new record. Exact same as they treat as duplicates. And the same way we have size, empty. You can check the contents of this particular key is there or not. All this you can do. Any question, please?
No, I don't have any question.
Okay, good. For any others?
Good.
So tomorrow, Naresh, are you guys good?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
more, how many classes left, Raj?
Huh? I know. I didn't guess. Naresh, you are asking this? Hello.
No. Hello. Yeah, yeah. I'm just
Uh,
asking more, how many classes are left?
more a weak class we have. So why I'm retaking this is because we are having our classes 1 or 2 classes missed, right? So if I do this recap, it will be quick enough to us to understand in the next sessions. Because in the weekends I might take 2 2 hours, so majority there will be closed. And the next week I think maximum 3 days would be good enough.
Okay.
So maximum Feb 1 to 3. So that would be good enough to close it. But to take triggers, because if I want to just move on to the topics, we can go on. But I don't know whether that would really help you out. So just wanted to do a quick recap and then understand things. Okay, this again would fire a meeting would end. Please join again. So I wanted to do where I did it last class for collections. I will add them also here. So far I was doing a singleton, right? Singleton is done. So now I have a list of records also I've dealt in the last class. So I'll just give a quick overview of 5 minutes there. So then today's class over. So tomorrow I should intentionally start with triggers. So then there will be a lot of things. Even I would match with my course syllabus there.
Okay.
So I think we are just good with the apex of basic how to create data types, other basic things here. And we also started writing how to write a SQL queries. So while we're just getting into the triggers, we may add one more level to the SQL queries, and we'll touch the events of triggers also. Testing already we started how to do a testing, writing for a sample class, have just past notations how to use it. Mhm. So while writing triggers also, we may write a little more advanced level of testing, how to pass it. So that way this also would be suffice. I think maximum with this week, so we should be good enough with chapters 5. So 1 to 5 chapters, we should be good enough with the chapter 5. Maybe in the weekend or maybe on the Sunday to Monday, Tuesday, we will be considering controllers. Controllers is not that great different. It's all about the Apex class today, what we are practicing. So whatever we are practicing, the same way these controls also would be. But they are dealing typically on how our UI with Visual Force space to accommodate their changes, and how do we intake them and how do we process them. But ideally, logical wise, what we did so far, the same thing is no change in that. So VF page, of course, it's a few tags we have to frame the UI and then to do the stuff. So at least 6 and 7 would take 3 days of max. So so I think we are good in this shape. But I will ask today a few questions right away after this meeting, or after maybe 11 o'clock of my time. I'll frame 15 questions to 20 questions of a snippets and I'll send it out. So that will have a bunch of errors to identify whether execute or not. So I will put that. So any questions in that we will discuss, because those will identify you, keep more stronger you, and it's a good practice too. So you have all your VS code installed, so you can put that syntax there. Also, you can check it what actually it is doing. All that we can cross and check. Okay, continuing to the previous session. So what I was checking is all singleton is done. Then I have dealt with bulk management class. Account for managing bulk records. Here I'll be dealing with the list, doing all with the list of multiple records. Before coming to this, okay, so we are dealing with the set, right? Set says, hey, I will have only unique. I don't have an order sequence, no, and then there is no any index that you can access with me to say, let's say, go to 0, just get this record. No. So you can get the size of the set. You can check whether the set is empty or not, and you can say check whether these particular value contains in this. Why we say contains? Because it says we verify whether the value is there or not. If there, it says boolean value, say true. If not, then it says false. Always we check contains. Why? Because we need to make sure the value or a program which we're writing in, no, it is in a proper running in a proper way. Always that is the reason we double check them. So contains will help us. Okay, this contains banana. Then let's get inside to this and then do some logic. Now we got another guy called map who combines list and set. So we call them key value pairs. So map is a collection, is a combination of set and list. I say always they talk in terms of key value. If you say who is key, set is a key. Who is a value, list is a value. So like that, set cannot have a duplicate values. List can have a duplicate values. So make sure you're going to insert a proper value called set and add the value to it. So they'll always be unique. If you send the same value, it will try to overwrite. So very, very important thing is, let's say this is how you define a map. So far in set and list you are using add keyword, you are using it, but here you have a put. Put is a keyword to add a value to the map. Getting? So why we have single quotes we have specified? Because it is a is a string. If this was an integer, yes, we can have a shuffling of multiple data types. You can have it. Then I need to present here integer, which is singly like this one. No any single quotes for this. Like this, all the records should have the integer at the left side and the right side should be string. Guys getting? So it can have a different data types as well. So understanding here, string to string. So A for apple like that I put, and B for apple, C for apple. So why I put the same value is because the list or on the map side, the second keyword what we have is called string is basically a list or a values you can say. They can be duplicate. So to make sure it is having duplicates, I put this way. But the key if you think A, B, C all are unique till here it is unique. Now what happens at the last? So key at the very beginning you put as apple. Okay. The next time you put C as an apple, it is overwritten with this. Now again you're putting C dot grapes, C for grapes. So finally it will be C for grapes and it will be there. These two values already overwritten. If they find the same key name, what they do is they try to override the value. It's getting. If you find the same key, we don't care. We override the value to the latest value. Latest value is grapes. So key is always should be unique. If this key is keeping repeating it, what is the latest value of that key is? Well, we have grapes, so that is replaced. So end of the day, what the result should be if you see A, B, C, this is a C, and D is this. Otherwise, C is been duplicated here. These two records are not even printed. So 1, 2, and the last C, D. 4 records would be printed
So
for.
let's say if there is no C grapes and there are two C apples, so what it would take?
When the key is already found, it keeps repeating or what I say, keep overwriting them. Again, if you have apple also, we don't care. It just overwrites with the latest value.
So it just takes a C as an apple with the latest value.
Yeah, whatever there, the latest that will take it. Basically,
Okay.
it has been here. It is overwritten with this value. Again, it is overwritten with this value. It just overwriting them. But
Okay.
end of the day, only A, B, and C and the D. How many times you given that doesn't care. It just overwritten the value to the latest one.
Okay.
So I put the value as grapes. Why? Because okay, to the last you have C and overwritten with the latest value. So you can no more see that apple. You can see the latest value girl grapes there. That's the reason I put that. So
Okay.
if you just say map name dot get key set, you will get all the keys A, B, C, D. You get it. Map name dot values. You print. You get all the apple, all the repeated values. You will get it. But because they are the values. Okay. You can separately get all the keys. You can separately get all the map values. All they can do it. So this string map would give me all the so A associate apple, B associate all the values it gives because it's a map. It shows me collection. You can get the map size. You can get check the map is empty or not. You can check map contains key like how we did in set. Again, this is also set type only. Map contains key A. If it present says yes, you are like okay, the value is actually there. We can get inside. This is a very important method. Map contains key. Yes, if the contains key, then get inside. Or else we just move on. See, we can print the key set separately. We can print the value separately. See in a for loop, which for each loops, if you send the values because this is a collection, values is a collection, right? One or more records it has. Like apple, so many apples we have. So each and every value we go to str and we're trying to print them. So why I put a string here? Because you are returning a type of list of strings. So that we're pushing one on record here and then we're trying to print them. Yes, getting? So this is how we try to deal with map. So combination of set and list. So then I just came in here to check on how a bulk record would work. So far here, public string create account. String is a singleton where only say success or failure. I want to deal with public static list of account because I'm trying to insert list of account. You send me the size 10, I will insert 10 records for you. That is the agenda of bulk records. So I instantiated list. Why? Because list is we sending here, and then the size of the record size you sent here, I'm just using traditional for loop. For I equal to 0, I less than the record size which is sent, and plus plus. Should be I less than records, not equal to. Why? Because it starts from 0. If you give 10, I'll insert 11 records to you. 0 to 10, it will be 11 records. So that way, we say 10 start from 0, less than 10 is 9, so 0 to 9 is 10 records. Then instantiate the object because we are trying to insert the new record. So then you just give a random name, account test plus I. I indicates, okay, every time it increments 0, 1, 2, 3, so on. And then again the same way I'm inserting the account number also. Why I put I? First time it is 0, second time it is 1, third, 4, 5, up to 9 it can go. Recommendation is do not do any DML statements inside the for loop. Keep always a list like this. Add to them to the list each and every record which you add. And after the for loop, just check them whether they are not empty and then insert the record. So I use database.save results. Why? Because what if in this 10 records, one record is failure? So that shouldn't harm us. Harm means it will try to revoke all the 10 records now. One record which failed, it let it go. Other 9 records let it be. So that we are using database.save results. So database.insert will take a list of values which we have added here, comma false. False indicates do not revoke it if something goes wrong. If you say true, even though you put database save results, doesn't case. You say that one record failed, revoke it. That is something about true. We're putting false. Please do not revoke it. Okay, now these results can have a success and failures. That's what we printed here. Because this is a array type, database.save results. Always a collection would be at the right side, and each and every record which you process for each loop to the left side. A singleton here. Okay, one record it passes to the RES results. If that is a success, I'm printing successfully the record is got inserted. If something goes wrong with the result, we'll have an errors. So that's an get errors we say. And again, this also can be collections. So error we are passing to one on each record to here. So error.get message, which will went wrong. What is the status code? All that we can print it here. But this way, whatever the record which we went inside, pass or failure, all will get to know. And finally, I'm writing the list, which I was intended to insert the record. I'm expecting a return type as list, account list. You're returning the same. So this is how the real-time use cases would be, guys. So from a small methods we started with and ended using a collection here. And we are trying to process a number of things inside and we're returning the same data type, which we define in the a method at the very beginning. Is there any questions here?
No, I don't have any questions.
Perfect. Then the same way, get all accounts. Send me account numbers where I'm using a set of account numbers because it should be unique, right? I'm sending a set of account numbers. Get me all the accounts. So we use the in operator here. Go check in this a list of set of strings, whatever we have, then pass them. So the account numbers would be like this: account number 1, 2, 3. Each and account number will go check whether we have not. This itself is a collection, checks each and every one of the record and get me into a list, and that list we are printing it here. Now, how do you give input? Look at this. So I've created a set of strings T1, 2, 3, 4. That set I've added to the, when I'm calling a method, account name dot method name, pass is set there. The moment you pass set here, it has come here. So each and every record is queries inside and then returns me the actual results. Because I have to send a proper set, right? So I'm just adding all this unique account numbers and passing to this. Now calling to this method is accept set and then it try to print me a list of records.
So we can use dot put instead of dot add over there.
Why? Set is absolutely for add. Map only you can use put. Nowhere else you can use put operator.
Okay, only in maps.
Only in the maps.
Okay.
Because there is combination of two list and set. So that's the reason we put map dot put and then give a first element as a what is the key and the second element as a value. But set list and all, you see only one element you can add it here. You cannot one or more because they are all of having same time.
Okay.
So set you cannot have a string comma string like this. You cannot have it. So that's the reason I'm not passing two params. Always I pass one param. Getting? Set only one value I passed. In map
Yeah.
only you will have two params which to pass. So ideally we have add here. For list same, set same. They the other way we compare, but these guys are both are opposite. One can say I can hold duplicate, one say I don't hold. So that's the opposite they are. Otherwise, both the methods are same only. So this set value I passed unique numbers of an account numbers, you get me all the records. So that would print the all the records. Now update. I just say go find this particular pattern, get all the records in the act list, and simply update the value and check if the list is not empty, update the record. This is what I've done. A simple method. I'm saying here void, so I'm not no expecting anything to please return me. I'm simply saying that I go void, execute, don't come back, just update it. So what my operators will do is, if you find ATA something like this, query all this record, get me, and if they all have a bunch of records for every each of the guys, I would try to print some increment the value with ATA to Tata. So this one method, and then last one is I have no query the same with like a bunch of records I got, I delete all of them. So in all the case, we are trying to use a list. Why? Because this is all about a collection. Or I'm trying to process one or more records. Any questions here?
No.
Okay, I think we're good here. Shall we wind up the class? Because the collections all be dealt with. Insert, update, delete, create, delete, all be done. In single record also we have done with create, update, delete, and we have just went on to the see how a list set map also that works through. I think we're good. So what shall we do is in the next class we're going to directly test the trigger. In the trigger we're going to write the circle programs. We understand how a circle will write, implement them, and then we write a trigger more about the methods what we have dealt with. So we'll write a project scenario and then understands how real programs are written. Already these are the real programs, already we have tested the base of it. Still more when you try to write the triggers, still more the best practice will follow and get used to the writing of Apex classes. So that would be kickstart of tomorrow. And for me, it is today is Wednesday, no Thursday. Today is my Thursday. Thursday and Friday, I would think. So already Thursday, but Friday and Saturday, I think I can cover up the trigger side. Anything on the testing and something if I left over. So all this would be done by this weekend. So max 1, 2, 3 we have on to the next week. So we'll be covering on to the controllers and visual for speech. So till now I have done a recap up to the Apex class what we can do. The next one session I may take a recap for the other side of the triggers and visual force pages or controllers to deal with. So that way we have done a 2 times of recap. So you should be good enough for the classic development. Okay, guys.
Okay.
Any questions?
So you will be explaining even that lightning components or not?
No, Lightning course is not covered part of this classic development.
Okay.
So
No,
lightning
LWC.
development separately takes under 15 days to do it. So that should come from your no, centrally. Like if you guys are interested, the way it is approached should be, it should come from centrally. That's what I can say. So this course is done to have an admin plus a development.
Okay.
What was that, Kantraj?
Now I'm saying developer class we have our intent to have only the classic development. I'm saying. So this is the core structure we have. So there's no added to this any lightning things we have here. If we want, we have to request it to assist centrally onto this.
Okay. So um, you take classes on Lightning also?
Yes, yes.
Usually. Okay. Okay.
So I don't specify split something the integration. So when I do a lightning, I try to combine the integration as well. Not like really because those are lightning classes. Still, I'll give hints on how the integration works combined with the lightning stuff.
Do you make any practical
Of course, yes,
projects?
of course, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll see tomorrow, guys. No problem. So we have to touch tomorrow for short trigger. So for whatever is done, it's been triggered. I think now all of you guys should be adjusted to what we have done with. This one recap class is enough to do so far what we have done in the past 5 to 6 days. Okay, thank you all. See you tomorrow.